The blackness of space boiled with light as the alien armada surrounded Earth's orbit. Their ships were vast, city-sized vessels forged from metal that shimmered like molten glass. Each one could destroy a continent. From orbit, they looked like a ring of gods preparing judgment. On the surface below, humanity watched their skies burn with the reflection of engines older than their civilization. The Galactic Council had come to decide their fate. In the command center of the United Earth Fleet, Commander Elias Ward stood before the central display. The holomap showed more than 2,000 enemy signatures closing in. Each alien species had sent its most advanced warships to make an example of Earth, a message of fear to anyone who dared defy the Council. Estimated contact in 90 seconds, the tactical officer said. His voice trembled, but his hands did not. Around him, the crew moved with calm precision. They had been born into chaos, raised in the shadow of extinction. Fear was something they had learned to use, not obey. Elias stared at the display, his gray eyes sharp. Hold positions. No one fires until my mark. The alien commander's transmission cut across the fleet's communication channels. A figure appeared on the main screen, a tall insectoid being with a crown of silver chitin. Commander Ward of Earth, it hissed. You have violated galactic code by weaponizing forbidden technology. Surrender your fleets. Submit to council judgment. Elias gave a faint smile. We didn't violate anything. We simply used what you threw away. The alien's mandibles clicked in disgust. You speak of scavenging relics as if it were innovation. You are parasites among stars. Elias turned to his officers. Open the frequency to all fleets. When the light on his console blinked green, he spoke so the entire armada could hear him. You call us parasites. But parasites adapt. You conquer, we survive. Every world you abandoned, every weapon you left to rust, we studied. You wanted us to be weak. Instead, you taught us how to fight gods. Then he looked at his second in command. Activate the mirrors. From behind Earth's moon, hundreds of thin panels unfolded. The alien fleets adjusted course, confused. They thought they were solar collectors. They were wrong. Elias gave the order. Fire. The mirrors caught the sunlight, amplified it through focused plasma fields, and turned the orbital space into a blinding halo. For 3 seconds, the alien fleet lost all targeting sensors. In that moment, the human ships moved as one. They accelerated through the light, small and fast, weaving through the giants that surrounded them. When the glare faded, the aliens realized their own shadows had betrayed them. Earth's fleet had vanished from their scanners, hidden behind the heat signatures of their own warships. Then came the first explosion. One alien destroyer broke apart, its engines overloading. The second fell into collision with a third. Humans had hacked their navigation systems using patterns learned from their own technology. By the time the alien commander regained visual control, half his formation was drifting. Elias's calm voice echoed across the open frequency. You came to punish us. Consider this our lesson in humility. Silence followed. The alien commander stared at the wreckage of his fleet. None of them had expected this from the so-called primitives of Earth. When the Council finally intervened, demanding a ceasefire, humanity stood undefeated. The message was clear across every network in the galaxy. The Death World had fought back. Days later, in the colossal hall of the Galactic Council, thousands of representatives gathered beneath a dome of starlight. The chamber was vast enough to fit a small moon inside. Each seat shimmered with the symbols of a different world. At the center, beneath the council insignia, stood Commander Elias Ward. He looked small against the towering alien delegates, but his voice carried with steady confidence. The council speaker, a being of translucent crystal, slammed its staff. Earth stands accused of militarizing stolen relics. You are to face sanctions and isolation. Elias did not bow. You mistake adaptation for theft. You ban us from your knowledge, yet your discarded debris teaches us better than your schools ever could. A ripple of murmurs passed through the crowd. Some species admired his courage. Others whispered in contempt. The speaker's light dimmed dangerously. You will submit to our judgment, human. Elias looked up at the glowing form. Your judgment is already obsolete. Behind him, a screen displayed recordings of the recent battle. Alien commanders flinched as they watched their ships torn apart by the very technology they had abandoned. A smaller alien delegate leaned forward, whispering to the speaker. They are learning faster than regulation allows. If they continue, they may— Enough, the speaker snapped, but Elias continued. You call us reckless because we survive differently. You call us dangerous because we grow faster than you approve. You call us death-worlders because our home is harsh, but that harshness made us what we are." His words echoed through the chamber. For a brief moment, even the Great Council fell silent. A blue-skinned diplomat from the Othari system asked coldly, "Then tell us, Commander, what does humanity intend to do now that it stands unpunished?" Elias answered, "We intend to learn." He pressed a control on his wrist and a new image appeared behind him. It was not a war fleet, not a weapon, but a school. A massive orbital academy under joint construction between Earth and several allied systems. The Galactic Academy of Military Science, where every species could study tactics and defense together. And among its first students, a young human girl, Lena Voss, Earth's youngest strategist, already ranked among the top cadets. The image zoomed on her face. Calm, sharp-eyed, confident. "This," Elias said quietly, "is the real power of Earth, not weapons. Not fleets, minds." The Council exchanged uneasy looks. They had seen what human minds could do with scavenged technology. What would happen when they gained formal training? The speaker finally spoke. "So you intend to send your people into our academies, to infiltrate our future generals with your kind?" Elias's expression did not change. "To share knowledge. Or, if you prefer, to test it." The speaker's light flickered, unreadable. Then it dismissed the hearing. "We will observe your progress, Commander, carefully." When Elias left the chamber, dozens of cameras followed him. Across the galaxy, billions watched. Some feared what they saw. Others admired it. For the first time in galactic history, humans were no longer the silent observers. They were part of the conversation. Far away, at the edge of the neutral system, the Galactic Academy came into view. Sleek spires reached into the void, surrounded by training fields and simulation orbits. Alien ships of every kind docked along its platforms. Inside, cadets of every species prepared for their next lesson in strategy and warfare. In one of the classrooms, Lena Voss sat quietly at her desk, her dark hair pulled back, eyes fixed on the holographic map in front of her. Around her, alien students whispered, some curious, others hostile. She ignored them. She was focused on the simulation display that projected a tactical grid of fleets and planets. The door hissed open. Heavy footsteps echoed through the room. Every cadet stood immediately. A tall figure entered. General Threx Volar, a decorated officer with scales that shimmered green under the room's light. His presence filled the air with tension. He glanced around the room before fixing his gaze on Lena. A slow, amused smile curved across his face. "So this is the human everyone talks about." No one spoke. He moved closer, the metallic plates on his boots striking the floor like hammers. "I have heard much about Earth's new prodigy. They say you outthink computers. They say you turned a hopeless defense into victory during your entrance trials." Lena looked up, meeting his gaze without fear. "I just saw patterns others didn't." The general chuckled darkly. "We'll see about that." The students exchanged glances, sensing what was coming. The air grew heavy as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. The general turned to the class. "Tomorrow we begin a test in real strategy. A human brain against the finest cadets in the galaxy." He paused, his eyes glinting with cruel amusement. "Let's see if the Deathworld breed can survive a lesson in humility." The room remained silent after he left. Lena stayed seated, expression calm, but her hands had clenched into fists under the desk. Outside the viewport, distant stars shimmered like watching eyes. Somewhere far beyond them, Earth turned quietly in the dark, unaware that its youngest student was about to shake the galaxy again. The black void of space was alive again with the glow of engines and the silent drift of warships. A massive alien fleet shaped like silver spears surrounded a single human vessel on the edge of the Perseid expanse. It was called the Ardent Dawn, a battleship far smaller and older than the crafts surrounding it. But every human aboard knew what this standoff meant. Humanity had been caught spying on the outer systems again, and the Council had sent one of its elite fleets to capture them as a warning. On the bridge, Captain Lyra Kane watched the alien formation tighten around her ship. Her officers whispered in low voices as scanners filled the air with warnings. The lead alien warship opened a channel and a cold, echoing voice came through. "Human vessel, you are trespassing in Council space. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded." Lyra's expression did not change. "What's the count?" she asked quietly. 72 hostile vessels, her tactical officer said. We have one cruiser, weapons charged but useless at this distance. The aliens expected surrender. But humans had learned something the galaxy still did not understand. There was no such thing as a hopeless situation when you came from Earth. Set the decoy pulse, Lyra said, a glowing sphere detached from the ship's hull spinning into the void. The aliens detected it instantly. Their sensors screamed of a fusion overload. The leading ships moved to intercept, forming a wall between the sphere and the human vessel. Fire the flare, Lyra ordered. A blinding burst of light filled space. When the glare faded, the ardent dawn was gone. In its place, hundreds of false radar echoes appeared, each mimicking the human ship's exact signal. The alien fleet broke formation, chasing ghosts across the stars. On board, the crew held their breath as the ship drifted quietly beneath the shadow of a nearby asteroid. Lyra smiled faintly. You can't catch what you can't understand. It was not power that kept humanity alive in this galaxy. It was imagination. The ardent dawn disappeared into the dark, leaving the alien admirals arguing among themselves. Days later, on the other side of the galaxy, the Galactic Academy of Military Science shone above a barren moon. The academy was enormous, an orbital fortress and university combined. Thousands of alien cadets trained there, learning the art of war under the Council's best generals. Among them was the human girl Lena Voss. Word of her first encounter with General Threx Voller had already spread. Every corridor whispered about the human who had dared to defy a decorated officer. Some admired her. Others waited to see her fail. That morning, the classroom's walls flickered to life with holographic displays of fleets and battle maps. The lesson for the day was advanced tactical command. The alien cadets filled the amphitheater seats as General Threx entered. His scaled armor gleamed under the lights, his steps heavy and deliberate. He carried himself with the weight of victory and the cruelty of someone who believed in absolute control. He did not look at anyone else as he strode to the front. His reptilian eyes locked directly on Lena. "Cadet Voss," he said, his voice cold and loud enough to echo across the room. Front and center, Lena stood. Her heart pounded, but she walked calmly to the central podium. The other cadets turned to watch. Some smirked, eager to see her humiliated. Threx activated the main projection. A massive simulation appeared in the air, showing two fleets. One small and fragile, the other enormous and perfectly organized. "This is a classic scenario," Threx said. "A losing battle no human could win. You will attempt to command the smaller fleet. Show the class what your so-called human brilliance can do." He folded his arms, smiling. "You have 5 minutes." Lena looked at the holographic map. The situation was impossible. Her fleet was cornered near a gas giant, surrounded on 3 sides and heavily outnumbered. Any direct attack meant instant defeat. She exhaled slowly, her mind racing. Then she began to move the pieces. "Redirect the forward cruisers to Quadrant 4, she said. "Engage evasive maneuvers, no firing yet." The simulation adjusted. The alien students frowned as her ships retreated instead of attacking. "Interesting," Threx mocked. "So the human strategy is to run away." Lena ignored him. "Deploy sensor drones around the gas giant's magnetic field." Tiny blue lights appeared around the planet. Seconds later, the enemy fleet entered pursuit range. The drones released bursts of interference, scattering false signals. The alien fleet commander in the simulation misread the data and redirected half his ships to chase what appeared to be fleeing targets. In doing so, he exposed his flank. Lena didn't smile. She only said, "Activate the fusion mines." The holographic gas giant's magnetic field flared with light as hidden charges detonated. The shockwave crippled the pursuing ships. Lena's small fleet turned and counterattacked through the chaos. The display froze. The system read, "Victory probability, 96.8%. No one spoke. Threx's jaw clenched. "You used the planet as a weapon?" Lena finally looked at him. "It was already there, General. You just didn't see how to use it." The silence in the classroom was sharp. The alien cadets exchanged uneasy glances. Threx stepped forward slowly. "Do you know what your mistake is, human?" Lena met his gaze. "I didn't make one." He leaned closer, his voice low. "You think intelligence makes you safe. But in this galaxy, cleverness without obedience gets you destroyed." She stood still, unflinching. "Maybe on your worlds. Not on mine." Threx's expression turned cold. "Tomorrow you'll face a new test. One you cannot outthink." He left the room, his tail cutting through the air like a blade. The students whispered again as Lena walked back to her seat. Some looked at her with new respect, others with fear. Later that night, she sat alone in the observation hall, watching the stars beyond the Academy's shield dome. She thought about Earth, the world everyone called cursed, dangerous, unlivable. The world that created people like her, the world that refused to die. She didn't know what the general planned for tomorrow, but she could feel it would not be fair. Fairness wasn't something humanity ever relied on. A faint sound echoed through the hall as an alien cadet approached. He was small, with pale blue skin and cautious eyes. "You embarrassed him today," he said quietly. "No one has ever done that." Lena turned her head slightly. "That wasn't my goal." The cadet hesitated. "Then why did you do it?" "Because he wanted to prove humans were weak. I wanted to remind him that we aren't." The cadet nodded slowly, then whispered, "Be careful. He won't forget this." When he left, Lena stared at the stars again. Somewhere out there, Earth was still recovering from its battles, still standing defiant under the shadow of the galaxy's judgment. Humanity had no home among the stars yet, but they had earned something more important: fear and respect. The next day came too soon. Alarms blared across the Academy. Cadets rushed through the halls toward the central training deck. A live simulation was being prepared, a dangerous one. It wasn't part of the usual schedule. Lena arrived at the command platform to find General Threx already waiting, his arms crossed. The holographic arena around him glowed with battlefields, ships, and weapon markers. "Today," he said, his voice echoing over the intercom, "you will command a real engagement scenario. Failure will result in live system feedback. Painful but educational." The crowd of cadets gasped. This kind of training was rarely authorized. Threx smiled cruelly. "Let's see if Earth's brightest mind can think while her nerves burn." Lena took her seat in the command chair, eyes calm. "Ready." As the countdown began, she could hear the whispers of the alien cadets behind her. Some wanted her to win. Most wanted her to fail. The timer hit 0. The simulated space filled with enemy ships, more than she had ever faced before. Her screen flashed red with danger warnings. Lena's voice remained steady. "All ships hold position. Wait for them to make the first move." The alien fleets closed in, weapons armed. Threx leaned forward, expecting panic. But Lena saw something in the enemy's formation. A familiar rhythm. Too perfect. Too synchronized. She smiled faintly. "Run subroutine Earth mirror," she ordered. The display shimmered. For a split second, every enemy ship's targeting system froze, confused by duplicated signals. "Now," she whispered. Her fleet fired at once. The entire arena filled with explosions of light and sound. The alien spectators shielded their eyes. When the holographic smoke cleared, the simulation registered an impossible result. Human fleet victory, 99.1%. Threx stood frozen. Lena rose from her seat, calm and quiet. "Lesson over, General." The room fell completely silent. The void was silent except for the hum of power building across the alien fleet's hulls. 200 ships hovered in formation above the blue curve of Earth, their weapons pulsing with deadly light. They had come under the Council's banner to make an example of humanity, to prove that the Death World species could still be controlled. Yet as the alien admirals watched their targeting arrays lock onto Earth's surface, something changed in the void around them. A thin ripple shimmered across the edge of space, faint at first, then spreading like a wave. The alien sensors flickered, struggling to stabilize. One commander hissed, "What is this interference?" Another barked orders to recalibrate. Then the shadows moved. From behind Earth's moon, the hidden fleet of humanity emerged. 50 ships, smaller, older, weaker on paper. But their movements were too precise, their engines pulsing in perfect synchronization. They didn't fly like warships. They flew like predators. On board the command vessel, Resolute Dawn, Admiral Kira Holt stood at the center of the bridge, her hands folded behind her back. "They're expecting us to fight fair," she said quietly. "We won't," the alien flagship broadcast across the system. "Human Admiral, you are surrounded. Surrender your vessels or face annihilation." Kira smiled. "No, Admiral Trell, I think you misunderstand. You're the one surrounded." As she spoke, a new pattern appeared across the alien radar, hundreds of signatures suddenly blinking into existence around their own ships. The aliens panicked, thinking Earth had somehow summoned reinforcements. In truth, the signatures were ghost signals, reflections generated by a network of decoy drones humanity had deployed across orbit weeks earlier. Now, Kira said. Her fleet opened fire, not on the alien ships, but on the space between them. Plasma rounds detonated among the false signatures, creating blinding explosions that confused targeting systems and overloaded enemy sensors. Within moments, alien ships were firing blindly at ghosts, even striking their own allies. Pull back to Earth's shadow, Kira ordered. The resolute dawn vanished into darkness as chaos consumed the alien formation. Humanity had just won another battle without needing to outgun anyone. They had simply outthought them. The footage of the engagement spread across the galaxy within days. At the Galactic Academy, cadets gathered in mess halls and dormitories to watch the recording. They whispered about the Deathworlders again, about how a species so fragile could defeat empires. And in one of those classrooms, Lena Voss watched the replay in silence. Her expression never changed, but her eyes were sharp. She understood the mind behind those tactics because they were the same kind she had studied her entire life. That day, General Threx Volar called her to the training deck again. His mood was colder than ever. The humiliation from her last victories had reached the council itself, and now he intended to crush her reputation completely. When Lena entered the deck, hundreds of cadets filled the seats above. A simulation field glowed across the center, a real combat scenario scaled to mimic deep space. Threx's voice cut through the noise. Today we test the limits of the human's arrogance. You will command against my own strategy team. A dozen alien tacticians stood behind him, their faces unreadable. They were the Academy's elite, graduates of the most prestigious worlds. Lena stepped into the command chair, the light from the display reflecting off her calm face. Understood. Threx leaned forward. No tricks, no modifications. The system will monitor every move. The simulation began. Instantly, holographic fleets appeared above the training deck, hers small and scattered, his vast and organized. The first wave of alien ships advanced like a wall of fire. Lena ordered a retreat, pulling her smaller ships behind a cluster of asteroid fields. The cadets watching above began to laugh softly. She's running again. Threx folded his arms. Predictable, but Lena wasn't retreating. She was drawing. Inside the asteroid field, she activated a hidden formation, mining drones repurposed as thermal decoys. They lit up the sensors like massive warships. The alien tacticians redirected fire toward the false heat signatures, wasting energy and ammunition. While they fired, Lena's real ship slipped through the asteroid's magnetic trails, appearing behind the enemy line. Attack pattern Sigma, she commanded. Her ships fired concentrated bursts at the enemy engines, not the hulls. The simulated alien fleet began to spiral as propulsion systems failed. From the observation deck, the cadets fell silent as the simulation calculated the outcome. Victory probability, 97.9%. The room was quiet except for the hum of the projector. Threx's claws tightened on the railing. You used non-combat drones in a military simulation. That's illegal under training code. Lena looked up at him. You said no tricks. You didn't say I couldn't improvise. The alien tacticians glanced at each other uneasily. None of them had expected this from someone who had only been in the academy for a few months. Threx's voice darkened. End simulation. The display vanished. The silence that followed was heavy. He stepped down from the control platform, his expression unreadable. You think cleverness will protect you, human? In real war, there are no rules. Lena's gaze did not waver. That's exactly why we survive. He stared at her for a long moment, then turned away. Get some rest. Tomorrow we begin something different. That night, the corridors of the academy were quiet. Lena sat in her dorm room, the faint hum of the station around her. She opened a small hollow display on her desk. It showed Earth, distant, blue, fragile-looking. She touched the image, watching the clouds move across the oceans. Her mother's last words echoed in her mind before she had left for the academy. They will underestimate you. Let them. Lena closed the image and looked out the viewport toward the stars. She could sense it, something was coming. Threx would not accept defeat again. The next day began with alarms. Cadets were summoned to the largest training chamber, the one used only for full-scale simulations. The stands were filled with students and instructors. Even visiting council officers were present. When Lena arrived, she saw Threx waiting at the center, standing beside a new simulation core. This, he announced, is a real-time combat scenario linked to our external drones. The environment is live. Failure will cause actual system damage, the cadets gasped. No one had ever used the live drones for a student exercise. Threx gestured to Lena. You will face my command unit again. If your tactics are truly superior, prove it where it matters. Lena stepped forward, her heart steady. Ready? The lights dimmed. The holographic battlefield appeared, 2 fleets orbiting a dying star whose gravity fluctuated dangerously. The timer started. Threx's ships moved immediately, splitting into 3 coordinated fronts. Lena waited, watching. Then she whispered to her console, Let's see how predictable you are. Her ships dove straight into the gravity well of the star. The crowd gasped. It looked suicidal, Threx laughed. She's finished. But as his fleet pursued, the human ships used the star's gravity to slingshot back around at impossible speed. The sudden acceleration let them strike the rear of his formation before his sensors could track the movement. The simulation field shook with light. Systems overloaded. The holographic display sputtered. When it stabilized, the result flashed across the arena. Human fleet victory, 99.7%. No one spoke. Lena stood, her voice calm. Thank you for the lesson, General. Threx's expression was unreadable. Then he smiled, a slow, dangerous smile that made the cadets shiver. The lesson isn't over. He walked past her and whispered so only she could hear. You've embarrassed me for the last time, human. Tomorrow we stop pretending. Lena didn't answer. She only turned to face the watching crowd. The alien cadets were silent, but something had changed in their eyes. Respect. Fear. Curiosity. When she left the hall, the corridors were filled with whispers again, about the Death World girl who outsmarted the galaxy's best. And far above the academy, among the stars, the Galactic Council watched through hidden satellites. Their recordings of the event spread faster than they could contain them. The whispers of a new kind of strategist were beginning to reach every corner of the galaxy. The humans weren't just learning anymore. They were teaching. The alien fleet filled the void like a wall of iron and flame. Thousands of ships, sharp, black, and pulsing with blue energy, had surrounded Earth. Their leader, High Commander Var, stood on the bridge of the largest vessel, his crimson eyes fixed on the small blue planet below. Target their defense grid. End this rebellion before it spreads, he ordered coldly. All across the fleet, weapons began to charge, humming with enough power to melt continents. But then, without warning, every targeting system across the armada went dark. Screens flickered, sensors scrambled, and comms erupted in static. Report.
Var barked. Unknown interference, an officer shouted.
Our navigation is... It's gone, Commander. All ships are blind. Var turned to the main viewport. A shadow passed before his eyes, something massive moving between them and the planet. Then hundreds of smaller shadows appeared behind it, gliding silently through the dark. It wasn't another alien force. It was Earth's defense fleet. But these ships weren't like any the Council had seen before. They were smaller, almost fragile-looking, built from scavenged parts and patched armor. Yet they moved in perfect formation, no wasted motion. Every ship, part of a single living machine. Then came the voice. This is Captain Elias Wren of the United Earth Fleet, the transmission said, calm and steady. You came here expecting fear. You'll find only calculation, the alien commander sneered. You cannot fight the Council, human. Elias' reply came like steel through ice. We're not fighting you. We're teaching you what happens when you corner a Death World species. At that moment, the alien fleet's navigation maps shifted. Dozens of false signals appeared, surrounding their formation. The Council fleet's AI tried to recalculate, but overloaded within seconds. Every ship saw hundreds of phantom enemies closing in from every direction. Panic erupted in the alien lines. Var's ships began firing wildly into empty space, striking one another as their own misfires turned formation into chaos. Meanwhile, Earth's fleet remained motionless, firing only a handful of real shots. But each one hit exactly where it mattered. Power relays, communication hubs, command bridges. Within 10 minutes, the largest fleet in Council history was reduced to drifting wrecks and confusion. Barr's last words before retreating were transmitted to the Council directly. "They are not prey. They are the storm." The video of the battle spread across every planet in the Council's reach. For the first time in millennia, the Deathworlders were not whispered about in fear, but in awe. Far from Earth, on the icy moon of Hellas IV, a young woman named Mira Dane was finishing her training at the Galactic Peace Academy. She had been one of the first humans admitted after the treaty. Her instructors claimed it was a gesture of unity. But everyone in the academy knew the truth. It was a test. The Council wanted to see if humans could behave. Mira's record was spotless. Top of her class in tactical theory, 0 violations, quiet and focused. But there was something behind her calm eyes that unsettled her alien peers. The same thing all humans shared now, a quiet certainty that no one could quite understand. That day, Commander Frost summoned her to the combat deck. He was a tall reptilian officer with scales that shimmered like wet stone. Around him stood a dozen cadets from different worlds, all staring at Mira as if waiting for her to break. "Human," Frost began, "your kind has recently demonstrated unfortunate aggression. The Council watches closely. You will show restraint today." "Yes, Commander," she said softly. "This exercise will simulate a fleet engagement," he continued. "You will command the smaller side. You will lose with dignity." Mira nodded again, walking to her console as the holographic battlefield rose around them. 2 fleets shimmered into view. The alien side, vast and organized, and her own, smaller and scattered. The simulation began. Her alien opponents wasted no time. Their ships advanced in a perfect wall, energy beams slicing through the digital void. Mira's forces crumbled under the first assault, her defense grid falling one by one. "Do you surrender, human?" Frost asked, his tone amused. Mira stared at the display. "Not yet." Her remaining ships retreated into a narrow asteroid belt. The alien cadets laughed. "She hides," one of them hissed. Frost smirked. "Cowardice." But inside the asteroid field, Mira activated her scanners and smiled slightly. She began transmitting short, erratic signals between her ships. The signals bounced across the asteroid surfaces, creating hundreds of false echoes. To the alien sensors, it looked like a massive fleet forming inside the belt. The aliens immediately diverted their main forces to intercept. Their formation broke, ships scattering to engage the false enemies. Then Mira gave one command. "Detonate grid." Her hidden mining drones exploded not as weapons, but as pulse generators. The entire asteroid field lit up, and the simulation's gravitational algorithm spiked, pulling the alien ships off course. They slammed into asteroids, collided with each other, and drifted helplessly as her smaller ships darted between the chaos, striking only where it counted. Within minutes, the alien fleet was gone. The simulation calculated the result. Victory, human command, 98.2%. Silence fell across the deck. Commander Frost stared at the holographic aftermath, his jaw tight. "You broke the scenario limits. You violated simulation boundaries." Mira looked up at him, calm as always. "No, Commander. You said to use the environment." He stepped closer. "You think your cleverness makes you superior?" She met his gaze. "No, sir. It just keeps us alive." The other cadets didn't laugh anymore. They just stared. Some with fear, others with curiosity. That night, Mira sat alone in her dorm, gazing out the viewport toward the stars. Her communicator blinked. A message had arrived from Earth Command, encrypted and brief. "Observation complete. Maintain position. Phase 2 begins soon." She read it twice, then deleted it. The next morning, she was summoned again, but this time not by Frost. The Council itself had called for her. The summons came with an escort, 3 guards in silver armor. They led her through the massive halls of the academy to a dark chamber lined with golden light. At its center stood a long table where 12 alien figures watched her silently. "Mira Dane," said the voice of the high speaker, "your actions in Simulation 47B have caused disturbance among the academies. Explain yourself." "I followed the parameters given," she said. "You used tactics that could only come from battlefield experience. How does a student from Earth know such things?" Mira stayed quiet. The silence stretched until the high speaker leaned forward. "Do you intend to destabilize the academy?" She finally spoke. "No. But maybe it's time you realize that we don't need your permission to think." A murmur rippled through the chamber. One of the older counselors hissed, typical Deathworld defiance, but the high speaker raised a hand. And yet she wins. The room fell silent again. Return to your quarters, human, he said at last. Your future will be decided. Mira bowed slightly and turned to leave. But as she stepped into the corridor, she could feel eyes on her from every direction. Cadets whispered her name. Guards avoided her gaze. That night, alarms blared across the academy. The lights dimmed, emergency systems flickering red. Mira woke instantly, grabbing her jacket and running to the corridor. She wasn't the only one. Hundreds of cadets poured from their rooms. Out the window, they saw fire bloom in the distance. The academy's outer docking bay was under attack. A fleet of unknown ships had appeared, small, black, silent. They weren't alien. They weren't council. They were human. From the academy's sensors came a message broadcast in clear human code. Extraction for Subject Dane initiated. To not interfere. Mira froze, realizing what it meant. Earth had come for her. The academy's defense ships launched immediately. But the human vessels moved like ghosts, vanishing and reappearing faster than the sensors could track. The last thing Mira saw before the smoke filled. The air was a beam of light cutting through the darkness, and the human insignia flashing across her vision. The next morning, the academy's corridors were silent. The council arrived to investigate, but the attackers had vanished without a trace. Only one thing remained in the records: an encrypted human signal repeating a single phrase again and again across the system. Phase 2. Successful. The Deathworld girl is awake. The blackness of deep space was torn apart by light. Thousands of alien warships approached Earth from every direction, surrounding the small blue planet like a tightening noose. Their hulls burned with golden energy, their weapons charged with power stolen from dying stars. It was the largest fleet the galaxy had ever seen. 47,000 ships from every species in the Galactic Council, all united for one single purpose: the eradication of Earth. From the command bridge of the lead vessel, Supreme Admiral Cora stared down at the planet. Her voice echoed through the fleet's comm network. Begin the operation. Today, the Deathworld burns. But before the first wave of plasma could fire, something unexpected happened. The stars themselves moved. Every ship's navigation system began to scream warnings. Dozens of false signatures appeared, filling their sensors with chaos. Ships blinked out of formation, colliding with each other as static filled their screens. The fleet's AI systems tried to recalibrate, but failed. Cora's second officer shouted, "Ma'am, we're detecting hundreds of new ships emerging behind us." The Admiral's blood ran cold. Impossible. Our long-range scans showed no heat signatures. Then through the void came a voice on every frequency. "Calm, cold human. This is Commander Vale of the Earth Defense Command. You came here expecting to destroy us. Instead, you've walked into the lesson we built for you." All across the Council fleet, the human ships appeared. Not large, not many, but precise. They emerged from stealth, built from scavenged wrecks in dark alloys, powered by something the aliens couldn't understand. Every human ship was synchronized, their movements perfect, their formation exact. The alien fleets opened fire, and the sky turned white, but the human ships didn't dodge. They split the beams. Literally. Tiny drones scattered through the void, bending the plasma blasts around them. The alien weapons curved off course and vanished into the abyss. Then came the counterattack. The human fleet didn't use energy cannons or torpedoes. They used something far worse. Code. A digital virus spread through the alien networks, crawling from ship to ship faster than light. It shut down targeting, disabled communications, and hijacked their systems. On every ship, the same message blinked across the bridge screens. "We warned you." Panic spread. Thousands of ships began firing on each other. Commanders screamed for control, but their systems were dead. In the chaos, Earth's fleet advanced, methodically dismantling the enemy formation. In less than an hour, half the Council's armada was gone. Cora watched as her ships vanished from her scanners one by one. "They're ghosts," she whispered. "How do they fight like this?" On Earth's surface, the Defense Command watched the battle unfold from the orbital feed. Every strike, every maneuver was planned. But one signal stood out, originating from far beyond the battlefield, from Mira Dane. She was no longer just the Deathworld girl. She was now Earth's tactical liaison to the galaxy. And she had been waiting for this moment. In a hidden control room beneath the surface, Mira's voice filled the command chamber. Execute pattern E-19. Let them think they've won the center. On the battlefield, the alien fleet saw what looked like a human retreat. Their sensors detected human ships breaking formation and falling back toward Earth. The aliens cheered. Push forward. They're running! Cora roared. The alien ship surged ahead, chasing the retreating humans straight into the trap. Hidden behind the planet's shadow, hundreds of human orbital platforms activated. They weren't weapons in the traditional sense. They were magnetic field emitters tuned to distort gravity itself. As the alien fleet advanced, the space around them twisted. Ships began colliding, breaking apart, their own mass working against them. The once proud Council Armada was caught in a gravitational snare they couldn't escape. Mira watched the readings. Lock phase field. From orbit, the Earth's fleet released a pulse. The space around the aliens froze, locking them in place. Then came silence. Commander Vale's voice echoed across the comms again. This is your last chance. Leave our system. Or stay and vanish. But Cora's pride burned too hot. We will not bow to primitives. Vale sighed. Then you will learn what primitives can do. The human ships moved as one, charging their final strike. Instead of energy weapons, they fired spheres of light, small glowing orbs that detonated in silence. The explosions weren't physical. They were temporal. Every alien ship caught in their range flickered, distorted, and then simply disappeared, erased from time. The rest fled. Hours later, the space around Earth was empty. Wreckage drifted in silence. Humanity had won. But it wasn't victory that filled the air, it was realization. The Council now knew Earth wasn't just another world. It was a death world in every sense. Its people didn't just survive, they adapted, evolved, and turned every attack into data, every defeat into strategy. On the Council's capital world, chaos reigned. The chamber where the galaxy's rulers once spoke in confidence now trembled with fear. The humans have achieved temporal manipulation. One counselor hissed, "That technology is forbidden." Another shouted, "How did they build this?" They were nothing. The high speaker rose, his voice trembling. They were never nothing. We were blind. Across the hall, news screens played footage of the human victory. The phrase spreading across every network echoed through every system. The Deathworlders are awake. On Earth, Mira stood in the command room watching the stars. Vale approached her quietly. "It's done. They won't come back soon." "They will," she said softly. "They always do. Fear doesn't stop power. It feeds it," he nodded. "Then what's next?" Mira looked out the window toward the moon. "Now we make them listen." The next day, a single human vessel left orbit, sleek, silver, and silent. Its destination, the Galactic Council's capital. It didn't carry weapons. It carried a message. When it arrived, the alien defense fleet surrounded it instantly. The humans didn't respond. They simply transmitted one line to every ship in range. "If we wanted war, you wouldn't see us coming." The message cut out, and the ship opened a live transmission. Mira appeared on screen, standing before a simple human flag. "This is not surrender," she said. "This is balance. You call yourselves rulers, but you forgot what it means to earn respect. Earth will not kneel, but we will talk. If you refuse, then remember what happened over our skies." The high speaker stared at her image, his claws trembling. "You speak as if you hold the galaxy's fate." "I don't," she said. "But we do." The chamber fell silent. No one dared interrupt her. "The galaxy forgot what humans are," she continued. "We are not monsters. We are not conquerors. We are survivors. You feared us because you thought we were chaos. But what you call chaos, we call evolution." Her image faded. The chamber remained quiet for a long time before the high speaker finally whispered, "Open diplomatic contact. For the first time in our history, we negotiate with a death world." That moment became legend. Centuries later, when cadets studied the great shifts of galactic history, they all learned the same name, the one that changed everything: Mira Dane, the Death World girl who faced the Council and made the galaxy fall silent. And on the day humanity joined the Council as equals, every starship across every world received a transmission from Earth. No music, no speeches. Just 6 words: "We survived our world. Can you?